It is 10 o'clock. We'll call this meeting to order. The last committee meeting of the year, as I understand it.
Yes, it is.
China, could we have roll call, please?
Yes, you can. This morning we have Walker,
Here.
Selden,
Here.
Bentley,
Here.
and Byram.
Here.
Excellent. You have the minutes from the meeting of November 13th in the packet. Are there any changes or revisions? Okay, you're approved as submitted. Thank you. Members forum. Do we have any?
You'll need to unlock your iPad first.
Oh.
Well,
You'll
it's part of
need to
members
unlock your
forum.
Even his iPad talks to him with an accent.
We do today. We have 2 members for the members forum.
All right.
Okay, so members are allowed to speak during the designated member forum at Rossmore Walnut Creek RWC board and committee meetings, either in person or via Zoom. Speakers are limited to 2 minutes and must clearly state their full name and Rossmore address before beginning. If speaking on behalf of another member, a signed consent form is required. To speak, members must submit a member form slip prior to the start of the forum. Instructions and slips are available at the meeting entrance, the RWC board office, and online. Please be advised that meetings are broadcast and recorded by attending and participating, including during the open forum. Attendees agree to and release RWC from all liability for their voice and/or likeness being recorded and broadcast for any lawful purposes without compensation.
And then call the people in order.
And our first member speaking will be Jim Pearson. If you'll please stand at the front of the table, announce your name and your address. And
I'm bearing props here.
Props.
My name is Jim Pearson. I live at 1955 Cactus Court. I've been living in Rossmore for about 6 years. For the last 5 years, I've been archiving the Rossmore historical artifacts. And just recently, I put together a collage of pictures that have to do with the fireside room. They're historical pictures. Most of them are about what it looked like before the renovation. I could put them in the Dollar House, which is where I have about 98% of the artifacts that I put together, but I think they would be more appropriate if they were displayed at the fireside building, somewhere on the walls or wherever. Again, this is what I put together. I don't know if I show it to you now or how this works, but at any rate, these are some of the pictures that I put together. And I think, Jeff, you'll recognize some of these. You'll recognize this, the stairways that went up to the balcony.
Interesting.
So at any rate, I would like to suggest that this be displayed at the fireside room because I think it would be just more appropriate there rather than at the Dollar House.
Well, thank you, Jim. We'll turn that over to staff for taking care of. Do you want to leave those with
I
us?
can do that, sure.
Okay.
I'll put this and put it in my office right now. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for bringing those in.
Thank you for
Thank you.
taking care of those archives.
You'll really enjoy looking at some of this.
So next.
Thank you for taking care of all the archival stuff.
you pass? Okay, that's all for member
And if
forum
any of
today.
you have never been up to the upper level of the Dollar House, if you haven't done that recently, there are cases there with a lot of really interesting maps and things like that. Might be of interest.
Thanks, Jim.
That's all member forum for today. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Chair's report. So
Wait,
we
don't
will.
we have another member?
She
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay, thank you.
Chair's report, just simply, today is an update on the capital budget process that we started last month. Ann Matola is out today, so Jeff will be providing that update. But next is the capital project update of current projects. Jeff, do you want to?
Okay. So in your packet and on the screen there is the current capital project list for 25. The pavement program, as all of you are well aware, was concluded last month here, or last few weeks. There is a few areas remaining for striping, although there was new striping done at the entry of the gate and just past the entry of the gate. So that is nearing completion. The building finishes, we did some carpet replacement, but there is more to do on that. You will see that in the upcoming budget here. The roof replacement down at Tice, we have deferred that to 2026 in terms of completing the plan documents, and then we'll budget for that in 27 for actual completion. Pickleball courts are under contract and underway. I know there's lack of activity out there, but that doesn't mean there's not a lot going on behind the scenes. They are completing their ordering of all of the supplies and mobilization, coordination with the solar project that will begin on the event center and then on the roof of the new pickleball courts. The main project right now, there is a delay in the receipt of the piping for the replacement of the irrigation line. It's a very specific size. And of course, that has a long lead time. So that will commence as soon as we receive that product. But the good news is the main components of the building are all available and should not result in the same kind of delays.
Jeff, is there any date when you're expecting those?
They were about a 3 to 4 week lead time, so they should be coming in the next couple of weeks. And they'll get started in earnest as soon as those arrive.
New Year's gift.
Okay, New Year's gift.
If anybody has Zoom on their device, if you could mute or turn the volume off, thank you.
The, let's see, RWC admin relocation, we have spent resources on studying both offsite and onsite, and we'll continue to do that investigation. The food and beverage capital project, this is the tenant improvements over at Creekside. We are finalizing still the agreement with the new operator and all of the improvements that will be scheduled with that. There's ordering going on, there is evaluation going on, there's design work going on. So very active, so we can hit the ground running in January.
My apologies.
That's okay.
I tried to mute it.
So Jeff, are you saying we don't have an agreement with?
We have a very close agreement in terms of the lease agreement with the new operator. There's still a few items we're finalizing. That's not holding up, progressing with a lot of the planning.
Okay, got it.
Let's see, Hillside Park Space Master Plan. This is the conversion of the lawn bowling greens to artificial turf, as well as doing some other planning for that area. That was deferred to 26. Same with the golf lake liner. NetSuite implementation, which includes the new website and implementation of the Vermont systems. Those are both underway and scheduled for the first quarter of 26. We are finalizing the FSM implementation as well, the work order system. So a lot still going on within that realm. The golf bridge replacement has been placed on hold for a bit, but will commence in earnest in 26. Golf course pump replacement is complete. Phase 3 of the solar is underway, and a lot of coordination going on in terms of the new project over at the event center. Pools and spa replastering was complete. Entry control generator replacement complete. And I think everything else is fairly well done. There is still some median turf replacement, I believe, that John is planning on doing.
Any questions for Jeff? Ted?
So on the golf course lake liner, that project probably isn't gonna be done until either very late in 26 or early 27, right? I mean, the actual work, because we'll just be looking at in 26 doing the investigative work about it. And okay. Because I know you can't do it during the summertime when we need the water. It has to be.
Yeah, it has to be very carefully coordinated.
Yeah.
So we'll be doing planning in 26 and then implementation after.
Adrian?
On the NetSuite, we haven't seen any data on what actually has been spent where, relative to the budget that we established a long time ago. Are we likely to see something on that? And be instructive? I realize it isn't going to change anything, but it would be instructive to see it.
Yeah, we did generate some specifics related to all of the elements of both temp staffing, consultant services, capital breakdown, operating breakdown, so we can bring that updated. Refined.
Okay, that'd be good. Thank you.
And Jeff, in terms of the agreement at Creekside, the board needs to ratify that in open session, but we can't do that until it's signed off on, right? So that will be next board meeting. Correct. Okay. So speaking of that, or any other questions? Food and beverage update. I guess we've kind of already done it, but is there anything additional?
So really, we are working on the transition plan. There's been significant information in the paper over the last 2 editions, and there will continue to be information regarding the closure and the plan for reopening with the new operator. The plans for the coffee service that will be outside of the restaurant, the plans for the update of the kitchen and of the restaurant itself is well underway. So there is a number of things taking place. We'll announce some opportunities to meet and greet with the new operator here in the new year. There has been meetings with the existing staffing with the existing operator to see if anybody is interested in applying with the new operator. So they had that meeting last week. So a lot of good progress taking place in preparation. The transition of the liquor license under the LLC agreement that we have under Creekside Holdings is in process. We're working with our attorneys on that. So it's just a lot of activity taking place.
I have a question. In the newspaper, it said that the coffee trailer will also have other things, like maybe croissants or sandwiches. Is that going to happen right away, or is it only coffee in the beginning?
So it all will somewhat depend on the delivery timing of that. I believe he's ordering it and it's coming from back east somewhere. But his intent is to have pastries and breakfast sandwich type stuff in addition to coffee.
Okay, good to know.
Who's coming up with the design for the restaurant? And do we get to weigh in on that in any way?
It is under the purview of the operator. Before any reimbursements, we have kind of some review, but it is their purview within the footprint of the restaurant. If they do structural changes, that's where we would have more say, but anything like table, chair selection, flooring selection, that sort of thing is really within their scope.
And well, one of the things that personally concerns me is the lighting, which is really outdated, and I don't know whether that's going to be part of his update or it should be ours or whatever, but it's
The feedback that I'm getting is excitement over the trailer. People are very excited about that, and concern over the employees. And so it's good to hear that they have met, and we'll see how that turns out. That's between the employees and the new operator.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Right, any other questions on food and beverage? Transit, anything new, Jeff?
We're going to talk about that here in a few items, but nothing too new. I'll talk about that later on.
Great. And then we have resident services systems here, which is really the Vermont system. Any update there?
Staff, especially staff at the recreation department's working on overall implementation planning. So that work continues behind the scenes.
Have any residents seen that yet?
It has not been displayed to residents yet, no.
Could we see that?
We can do a demo.
That'd be awesome. And then rossmore.com and myrossmore.com.
Both progressing, still planning on in the first quarter kind of rollout with those, but they are both progressing and still working with the marketing task force and completed a number of working sessions with small groups and got some good feedback. So those are evolving as we progress.
Timing would seem to be very good. I just heard from several sources that Sequoia Country Club is closing for 2 years because they're redesigning the course and leveling some 5-figure assessment. And so there is suddenly a lot of interest in Rossmore's golf course and buying here. So it might be great timing on our part.
So our $18,000 is cheap.
For them, yes. Not for everybody. Anything else in that regard? Okay. Unfinished business. So the 2026 capital budget requests.
So there hasn't been a whole lot of changes since you saw this last. What's on the screen and what's in your packet is kind of the overview of all of the projects, as well as the individual breakdown and description, along with prioritization. Many of the projects are carryover. So when you look kind of at the bottom of that total proposed capital budget of 5.6 million, that will be adjusted once we know what the actual carryover amount will be from projects currently in process. For example, they're really at this point, there's no way we're going to spend 4.3 million in 25. So there'll be more of a significant carryover, but that'll then reflect savings in the current year. So there's a number of items like that will still see significant adjustment. Just to run through the projects fairly quickly, you'll see our ongoing paving program that happens annually, $1 million. The roof replacement down at Tice, there's 25,000 in there. This is one we've kind of kept putting on hold, but now we're planning on actually pulling the trigger on doing the design, and then we'll complete the work in 27. Building flooring finishes, this is over at Creekside. This will go along with some of the tenant improvements. We want to do replacement of the flooring within the clubhouse and the hallways and the meeting rooms there as well.
Jeff, could you just, as you go through these, mention the prioritization?
I can do my best. So that's a
on separate
2B.
sheet.
Well, I can read those off, but if you could by project.
Oh, I see, the
'cause that-
priorities on here.
It is, yeah. But those were the biggest changes that we made.
Right. So then pickleball is obviously a carryover, and we will adjust that as it moves along. The RWC admin relocation is also a carryover, but there's some additional funding in there up to 160,000. And that is reflective of really what it would take to carry a project through design development phase and looking at gateway projects with that. So that funding has been boosted a bit. The food and beverage capital project obviously is a carryover, and that will be adjusted based on what we spend prior to the year end. Hillside Park Space Master Plan, I think we maintained that pretty consistent at 95,000. That is a priority 3B. And what that is looking at replacement of the existing natural turf for the lawn bowling. But in addition, looking at the overall master plan for that facility in terms of the outdoor space. So the greens, bocce, potential outdoor food and beverage service, and other elements, not actually looking at any part of the building. These are all the exterior planning. Number 8 is the golf course lake liner. That is a carryover project. However, we anticipate, again, just doing the planning in 26 and then the actual implementation in 27. The golf bridge replacement is another carryover. Plan on actually completing the work. That's $600,000. Event center, pickleball solar is another carryover. There's a little bit of money that's required within that just to complete and coordinate the planning of that project, but it is under the PPA agreement. The golf water conservation projects, priority 3B. This is also a board goal for water conservation. $150,000 that mainly completes the tee box replacement and narrowing of the tee boxes and saving of turf.
Jeff, I think Ted had a question.
On the bridge, the carryover on that, that's just a placeholder, right? Because we don't know exactly
Until
what
it's
it-
bid, yeah.
Yeah, and do we have a design on that too, or do we just, is that still kind of in flux what they're
The
figuring out?
design is getting close to kind of being done, and then we'll be able to go out to bid for that in coordination with the final permits that we have to coordinate with a number of agencies.
And do we feel that 600 is close?
We feel that 600 is a good number at this point, based on everything we know today.
Good answer, Janet.
I have a question about the Gulf water conservation projects. What does that actually entail? When whatever you said, I didn't understand what it meant.
So if we go down,
What does the T thing have to do with something?
so the tee boxes for all of the, we don't actually have a picture of it, but the tee boxes for all of the holes previously were, the box itself is grass, and then all of the surrounding areas were grass. That is really non-functional turf area. In other words, it's not part of the play at all.
Unless
So-
I'm playing.
Me too, yes, I like to use all of it, but, so the concept is to get rid of all of that and replace it with either DG or mulch or other non-irrigated surfaces. You have then a defined tee box. We've done a number of the holes already, but there's a number left to do.
And it saves a lot of water
Yeah.
and maintenance, yeah.
But isn't this also an overall look of where play is not supposed to be? But it's an area that we have to dump a lot of water on. We have to have a lot of maintenance work with the mowing and everything else. And those areas are trying to be figured out and taken off of the golf course, so it saves money for the golf course and operations.
This has been an ongoing kind of, they evaluate where is out of play and that can be removed from irrigated systems to
That's great.
our things.
Separate Dwight plays there.
Yeah. I need lots of space.
Okay, so the next,
Oh, I'm sorry, Adrian.
So on the golf bridges, this involves the creek a fair bit as well. And I know there's quite a few people at Rossmore who are concerned about the creek and its value to the community and a whole lot of things associated with that. So at what point will it become publicly available for people to see, comment on, make suggestions, do whatever might occur?
a significant amount of this project is coordination with a number of regulatory agencies. So the design, the process, what happens to the existing, how we do work in the in and around the surrounding is all heavily regulated. So there's little opportunity really for input in terms of what we do and how we do it, because it has to be per the different regulatory agencies. Once we have a final kind of design and so forth, and we're ready to go out to bid, we'll come with that package. There could be any comments on the look of the facility, but how we proceed and do it,
Well,
really, there's not opportunity.
The reason I'm poking at this a bit is because it's not just the bridge. It's the creek itself and what you do to it, and upstream of what you do to it. And we could look solely in the area of the bridge and say, oh, we're just going to deal with that. Or we could look further upstream and make changes up there, and that would actually affect things. And so I'm have people really looked at that carefully, et cetera? I know people have questions about that. And
yeah, I mean, if anybody has specific questions, they best can contact Ann and express those, and then we can run those by our consultants in terms of the planning. But they are the ones that are kind of working with all of the agencies in terms of the scope. The broader we get the scope, the longer it's going to take in terms of other areas. But it does involve the removal, so it affects the flow, it affects the banks, it affects a lot of things. That's why it's so regulated.
Didn't we do one already, a golf bridge? No, we've never.
We have 9 to look at. So,
Wow.
so I have one more year on the board, which this is probably my project. You get the other 9.
And Jeff, we have experience with dealing with creek erosion and regulatory
We had
process.
to do the drop creek structure, and it took years to work.
Years.
Timing,
I mean,
when you can do the project, and
I mean,
it's intense.
I think everybody understands the regulatory difficulties associated.
Which is protects the creek as well as,
So,
aesthetics.
so it's just something that people pay attention to.
Absolutely.
Ready to move on?
I think so.
Yes.
Okay, so the next one is the Dollar Clubhouse Master Plan. The concept behind this is a 2B rating prioritization. The concept behind this is to look at the whole clubhouse and plan on what a revision or revised plan would be, and then to be able to take that and do it in phases. So we don't want to get into a situation where we're replacing flooring and then next year we're tearing that same flooring up to do something new. So we want a comprehensive plan that we could then phase over the next 10 years, and we'd be looking at improvements pretty much every year or every other year within dollar to achieve the overall master plan. So we have received a proposal already. That's why this amount is in the 150,000 range. The security fencing and cameras is focused on the top of, this is a priority 1A. This is a safety and security item for the top of Stanley Dollar Drive, where we have an access gate with Pacific Gas and Electric up there. This is to replace that fence and then to add some security cameras up there. This is a spot where we have had issues in the past with access and so forth. So this project focuses on that area.
Jeff, will we see more about what that project will look like? I drove up there. I mean, obviously the fencing is wonky and the gate is wonky, but what sort of security will be added to, I mean, I don't know how you can make it steel proof. I mean.
No, you can't make it steel proof, but it is in extending the fencing to the kind of the wings of it and replacing the gate, and then adding security cameras, so when something does happen, we have a better chance of recording it and working with Walnut Creek PD on apprehending, so, and hopefully deterring.
So we've identified that is the place that people come in, because there are spots that have virtually no fencing. which are easily accessed. If they decide to walk 200 yards down the fence line, they can just walk through. So,
People bothered.
But there's a significant difference of walking through and actually being able to drive through. So what we've seen is people could cut the lock on the gate, drive through, steal kind of like murders and so forth, drive right out. It's difficult at the front gate, we have cameras already, so we can monitor incoming, outgoing, but this is a vulnerable spot. And then the next item has to do with that as well, but also with all of our security cameras that we have, as well as our ability to expand security cameras, where we have a server that stores the footage, and we're able to go back and look at that footage for up to several weeks. Currently, we don't have that capacity or the capacity to expand. So this is a replacement and expansion of our storage capacity. I know there were some questions about that last time. I will have our IT folks address that when we come back to you for approval. And then our IT server upgrades, this is just kind of an ongoing, we got to replace our servers and keep them in good order. One of them is reaching its age. 3B, priority for the Buckeye tennis courts, 7 and 8. Well, the concept here is not to go in and grind down and replace the asphalt that has the leaching of the iron, but rather just continue to do resurfacing and crack repair and do it more frequently. You can do a lot of surface repair over the years at 30,000 a clip, rather than doing a full depth replacement and reconstruct for the 300,000 that we were estimating for that. So this is to keep them in good repair. You'll probably see this item then more frequently. Typically it's on a 7 to 10 year cycle. So we would do this probably more on a 3 to 5 year cycle. And then the final item we added was the Creekside pickleball courts. These are the existing courts at Creekside. There's the 3 courts there. We put in 25,000 really as an opportunity to evaluate more specifically what the next phase of those courts will be. Do we continue to utilize them as pickleball courts? Do we transition to parking? Do we tear them down and do something completely different? This is an opportunity to have some resources to do a little bit more in depth on where we want to go with the future of those courts.
Could I just say something? So obviously we built new courts because these courts are unsafe and they're falling into the creek. And we did sound studies. We spent a lot of money on sound studies for these existing courts and determined that was not workable. So I'm surprised to think that they might remain commissioned courts. I would think that we would decommission these courts and look at other options. And I have no problems with setting aside some money to study those other options. But I think the expectation, at least from my vantage point of what we've done so far and from the resident standpoint, is that these courts are not going to be used for pickleball.
Right.
So the sound studies that we did for these courts actually didn't determine that they weren't viable. The sound studies gave recommendations of using a barrier that hangs on the fences that would mitigate sufficiently, especially because the Rossmore Parkway is a significant noise generator. The cracking and the falling into the creek, making them really unplayable, is based on the fact that we were going to change the orientation of those and add and expand it to 7 courts. It's not possible based on that. If you were going to retain the use of them and the courts are moved as far to Rossmore Parkway as you can, and you utilize the sound barrier, they become viable. The likelihood that we will be in a position in the next 3 to 5 years where the community is saying, we need more pickleball courts. It's probably pretty high. So I think what you want to do is evaluate the asset you have sitting there and the value of that asset, and is it something that makes sense to retain for future use, or is there something else you want to do there?
Well, I think that we should be looking at alternatives.
Absolutely.
I mean, we should be looking at this in the context of, here's option A, B, C, and D, and then we can make a rational decision about what we should be proceeding without knowing what the options are. And I agree with you that I think a lot of people will be upset if they see those courts in condition after the new ones open up.
Yeah, that was-
Even if we were just to sort of close them off, not do anything.
I find it difficult to think that these courts would not be decommissioned as soon as the new ones open. And I think that was the expectation in
Yeah.
spending $5 million for new courts to protect residents and provide great courts. There was no indication in all of those discussions that we would continue using the old courts for pickleball.
Maybe the name on this should change for, because that's a good piece of real estate there, and just figure out what is the best use for that. And you know, to change, I mean, just change, and we don't know what that is. Whether it would eventually, like Jeff was saying, possibly be an overflow for pickleball, being as it picks up, or is it for something else? But I'm just saying, change the name on that to evaluate that pickleball court area. Because I think in the beginning, it was gonna be an expansion of the parking lot. But I don't know how that would work out with the weight of the cars sitting on there with it all wanting to go to the creek. I think that's an issue also. So we,
I would agree, maybe, yeah, change.
just change the name of that
But
particular situation.
Any
to-
discussion of maintaining those as pickleball courts, I think, is not meeting the expectations of the community.
Problematic. I agree with you.
Well, they're a lot of work.
Problematic.
They're a lot of work and they're expensive because they, you know, everything is a patchwork job because it's on the move.
That's exactly what they said.
Yeah.
We'd have to keep repairing. So I agree with Dwight 100%. I really believe to reinstate those courts would kind of be a slap in the face.
I think just changing the name, I think we should look at the property and see what we can do with it because otherwise it's just a fenced in area that we'll never do anything
Oh,
with.
yeah, of course.
So we need to look at what possibly, who knows, I don't know if it would, I might not even do that. I was gonna say support another building for meeting rooms or something, you know, I don't know, but it needs to be
Maybe
evaluated.
an underwater meeting room.
Yeah, only for the first floor.
I just hesitate to include in any narrative, any continued use of that space for pickleball courts.
I agree with you. Feels wrong.
Should we make a recommendation?
Go ahead.
I guess we need to put that on.
Well, I just changed the name. I still think it needs to be looked at because I think just sitting there the way it is probably not the best thing for Rossmore either. It's not gonna look great.
But I question the narrative saying that we will evaluate it in terms of continued use for pickleball
Hence, change the name of what we're doing with that spot.
and the narrative.
Investigate where it's gonna go.
Possible?
We're kind of in agreement, I think.
So why don't we bring that back to you at your this is December, January meeting. And we'll have a more in-depth presentation. I hate to see you make a decision without all of the background.
That's fine. Because we've got time in January, that is before the finance committee meeting, is before the board meeting. We'll be making a recommendation at that point in time to the board. So, okay, we look forward to that.
So that is the conclusion of the capital projects. We then have the machinery and equipment, which is on 8A19. Annually, we have a list of capital machinery and equipment that we either add or replace. Significant portion of that is golf equipment. You'll see $175,150 for a list of various golf equipment. One of our kind of operating philosophies is that we invest more in equipment, which then helps us reduce and actually maintain the course with fewer bodies, maintenance staff. The lawn bowling green piece of equipment of that total is $22,000 is electric walk behind greens mower. As we talk about what we're going to do with the lawn bowling greens, that can come into question. However, that is also a piece of equipment that can be used and would be used on the golf courses as well. So it would not go to waste. Under landscaping equipment, last year we bought an RC mower. This is just a trailer for it so we can have easier ability to move it around. Valley-wide, we replace some of our utility vehicles, trucks, and so forth on an annual basis. So there's 3 pieces of equipment that are being replaced that will reach their end of their useful life. Building component replacement program. Let's see, this is replacing the emergency generator at the maintenance shed or maintenance pool equipment replacement. We replace one of the heaters annually at $1. There's 2 heaters there. Fitness equipment, this is capital pieces of fitness equipment. We're looking to replace 3 to 4 pieces of the cardio equipment. We are, that equipment was purchased in 2017, so we're reaching the need for replacing that, and we do that in a phased approach on an annual basis. Tables and chairs, we're focusing in on the event center. A number of the chairs there are in need of replacement. So there's $100,000 in that, and then tables valley-wide. These are tables at the clubhouses that we replace periodically. Utility replacement program over at Creekside Golf Building. This is a water heater. And then there is finally, number 9, Rossmore TV, replacing the Black Magic TV camera. Do not ask me what the Black Magic TV camera is.
Sounds like witchcraft.
Better be magic.
Event center lights, there's work we need to do on the light system there. And then finally, we're looking at fireside room, needing to replace and add some lighting and a new screen and projection system to that room. Any equipment?
Adrian?
I see we're spending $160,000 to trucks. 80 grand a piece, wow.
Welcome to the current state, yes.
Do we go out to bid on those or what?
We have a fleet account, so we do it under fleet purchasing, so that is our discounted. These are equipped, so they have the utility bed and tool equipment built in, but that is just unfortunately the crazy going rate for trucks. So these are F-250s that we've spec'd out.
So back to decommissioning the existing pickleball courts. Can we include in that discussion what's going to be done at the fitness center in terms of pickleball time? That kind of ties in with usage.
The new facility, they can play in the rain, right?
They can play in the rain, they can play in the dark, they can play in the... It won't be dark, it'll be lit.
Yeah.
So, Jeff, if we look at the list and we say 5.6 million, and then the finance committee says, uh-oh, you've only got 4 million to spend. So that says to me, anything with a lower priority starts to be on the chopping block. So we don't have any 4s, we only have 3s. And so if we look at the 3s that would come off, if that is the case, could start with the Hillside Master Plan, conservation projects on the golf course, Buckeye tennis courts, and the decommissioned Creekside pickleball court. Does
I
that
don't know that we
make
can look
sense?
at all the 3s because it's, the Hillside one, even though it's an investment, over the long run could be a huge savings back to us.
That is true.
So, I mean, we put it as a 3, but 3 is also, the big piece of 3 is it's an economic situation. So when you talk, you can't just throw out a number and just because it's a 3, you think we're gonna take it off, because it's a big number, and it's a big number of savings that it'll do to us over the course of the years. It's an outlay of money, but it is, I think we'll recoup quickly, and I think we'll start getting ahead of the ball on that. So, some of those, I think we have to really look at the reason.
And for example, the server for security camera storage. I mean, that gives us a month's worth of looking at pictures as opposed to a week. But it doesn't give us a completely new capability. And so that might, I couldn't, it'd be hard for me to justify that over something that would save us money.
So, and I'll let you say something in a bit, but so the use of the priorities is, okay, if we don't have the funds, we have to chop somewhere.
Yeah.
So if it's a priority 1, it doesn't seem like that should be on the chopping block. If it's a priority 3, well, I'm just saying, based on the prioritization, that's the way that it should operate.
Yeah,
So if we don't like the priorities, we could change them.
I don't think it's a thing of whether you like the priorities or not. The priorities are set up with it's safety number 1. I totally agree. If it's something that's safety that we gotta deal with. But if I'm looking at something for the future and I'm seeing how way that down the line, I can save a chunk of money, but I have to do something right now. To me, that's pretty important to me. And so that's why the priority 3 is important to me, because that's gonna be something down the line which will make it easier for future boards to make a decision on things that they have to do.
What I want to say is we could take them one by one, the 3s, and discuss out of, let's say there's 4 or 5 of them, and prioritize those. I mean, just so we have that discussion about what would we give up if we have to.
Well, and even with safety, I mean, yes, it's important, obviously, but not at any price.
Right. Like fixing Stanley Dollar Gate. I mean, how many people break in? I don't know. It can't be that many.
Yeah.
But anyway, yes.
Well, it's important to you if you're a catalytic converter still.
So
I mean, all of a sudden it becomes a number 1 priority for you, so it does happen.
Won't happen.
And that's how they do it, is always through that gate?
I don't know that they always go through
I
there,
don't
but
think
it is.
so.
So let's let Jeff have a say here.
So what I put on the board is kind of the cash flow model that you've seen in the past. This hasn't been updated since the last time you saw it. We did reduce the number of sales to 380. It's probably gonna come in a little bit under that as well. But then we bumped it back to 400 ongoing. You can see we're coming in right about 2.1 with the goal of retaining a balance of 2 million. This does bump up the reserve to 4 million from 3.75. So right now, kind of the projection is based on the completion of everything, looks good. But what you probably want to do is not look at little items because they're not going to add up too quick, but you need more significant. Also keep in mind, not all of the things that we're proposing will be done in the first quarter. So things things like pavement, which happens typically in the fall. If we get to a point where sales just have really dropped off and we're not gonna be able to utilize that, that is one that you could look at, that's $1 million. You know, if we need to, we could look at $600,000 for the bridge, and that could be postponed, and that wouldn't happen until late in the year as well. So you don't need to make the decision right away. You can have your priority list, but also identify some of those items that will not happen until later in the year based on funding decide at that point.
So I just want to circle back for you guys to think about in the future, when we do priorities, what are we doing? What is the goal of doing those priorities? Is it to say these are the order that these projects should be done in? Or, you know, Jeff is demonstrating that there's obviously case-by-case things to make decisions about. But why do the priorities if we're not going to use them?
Well, I didn't think the priorities were because of order.
So what are they for?
I think that they tell us what we're trying to achieve with this project. And I think that that is what the priority is more for me, is what are we trying to achieve when we do this project? And when is the best time to utilize that project? If the project, if we're looking at MTFs going down, we might want to look at a way of saving money on the coupon here with the project getting it done and start saving us money on this side, you know, instead of because the money's not coming in like we want it to come in here. So I think to me, the priorities, everything on the list is on the list for a reason. So, but the priorities help us make the decision at the right time for what we have to do. And it could be financial, and it could be safety, or, you know.
All right.
I don't think the priority gives us an order. It's not like, remember the 1, 2, 3, we looked at that as, okay, this is what we're working on now, and this is future and stuff like that. This priority list is a little different, I think.
And I think Jeff,
My personal opinion.
I think Jeff's point about the fact that this doesn't all occur, like, we signed an order on at the end of January, and now it's written in stone. This occurs over a long period of time. A big chunk of it is the pavement process. That could be larger, it could be smaller. You know, it depends on what sort of happened over the years. So, I mean, this is very much an ongoing process as we do these various things, not a, you know, it's not like the coupon budget where you just sort of, you have to say, this is it.
Okay. I think it's something to discuss each year in determining priorities, just from the standpoint, is it a worthless exercise? Maybe, maybe. In a way, I mean, we just said we're not gonna really use it. And so,
We didn't say we're gonna use it. I never said that.
No, we got rid of some things by going through that priority process.
yes.
We sort of said, that's really just not there, you know? And the ones we ended up with are ones that are appropriate to be done. And so the question is really just sort of how much money and how quickly, and, you know, maybe you can fit a $40,000 project in here. You know, because you got a little bit left over, but you can't do a 600, you know.
I won't belabor the point, but I'll just make one more point, is that, so the planning committee makes a recommendation to the board, actually to the finance committee, and this happens in January, mid-January. Then the end of January, finance committee looks at funding and says, yeah, okay, it looks pretty good, or uh-oh, big problem. And it goes directly to the board. It does not come back to the planning committee before it goes to the board at that point in time. It does come back to the planning committee in February, but what I'm saying is we will be making a recommendation of these projects with priorities to finance and the board. And so you just need to keep that in mind. And I have no problem if we want to change priorities. I have no problem with that. But I have a problem with perhaps down the pipeline, people relying on the priorities that we've established. That's all I make my point.
Are you suggesting it would be better if we The finance committee looked at this and then planning committee got it back again before we went to the board with recommendation. I
The
mean,
timing of your meetings are always like 2 days before the board meeting,
That's the
which
problem.
is,
yeah,
And it could be kicked back, it could
I
be,
mean, it could go a month later. I mean, would that matter? To
but
the board?
sometimes it takes so long to get anything approved. I mean.
I think we can work it
You
through.
add another
I'm
month
just
to
asking
it.
to explore the idea.
Yeah.
Susan,
In the past, has the,
speak to the microphone.
Oh.
Come closer to the table.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Please.
Sorry.
People can't hear
In the
us.
past, has the planning committee submitted to the finance committee kind of alternatives in terms of their feeling, okay, we only have 4 million? Has that ever been submitted as part of the package?
No.
No, okay, thank you.
Something to consider. We don't need to discuss it any further. Any other comments on this? So there are a couple refinements to come back in January, and then we will be making a recommendation to finance and the board at that point in time. Okay. New business. Contra Costa Transportation Authority.
So some of you were alerted to or saw a survey that came out from a Berkeley transit organization. It's basically a group of students that were doing a project in association with CCTA. They picked doing it on Rossmore's transportation. We were not consulted, we were not part of the survey. CCTA was aware, but also did not coordinate with us. So it went out to the club presidents and asked them to spread it around. We requested that they take down the link as quickly as possible. And the reason we did that is a number of the questions were very misleading, a number of the assumptions were incorrect, and it would have just generated a lot of misinformation and concern. That being said, there can be certainly value in working with, we've done work with Berkeley fellows, and we've done work with CCTA, and we're looking at revisions to the transit system. So there is value in doing a future survey, but we would want to do that in partnership and make sure that this committee and others have a chance to get their eyes on it before it goes out. So there is a possibility that they're going to bring it back next semester with a new group of students, but at this point it got pulled.
Well, that didn't affect their grade.
Well, it's part of learning, isn't it?
Yeah.
How did they get access to our database of club presidents?
The clubs are listed on the
Rossmore.com.
website.
It's out there.
Open to the public.
We stand united.
So, and then in regards to transit, we have been talking about a grant that CCTA was hoping to get for the feds, and that would help us secure electric vans that we could use for our transit system, and then ultimately look at transitioning those to autonomous down the road. They did not receive that grant, but they are looking at additional opportunities. So one of the things we'll probably be doing in January is bringing back a more updated plan for you to start looking at within transit. And we'll probably be adding some consideration in the capital budget for some.
The feds are anti-electric, you know that. They took away the H.
The feds are anti-California electric.
Old
yes,
people.
so-
Thank you.
We get funding from Measure J to purchase the vehicles we use.
No,
The top rate.
all of our current vehicles and past vehicles for the last 20 years have come from Federal Transit Administration funding. it's called 5310. It's for small urban type area. So we usually get our equipment from there. The Measure J funds we utilize for operating, and it's about 150,000 a year that we've applied for, and it is offset some of our expenses for our service.
And so is that Measure J money reasonably secure?
So
Up for grabs every year, how does that work?
So Measure J is a huge sales tax measure that CCTA utilizes for major infrastructure projects. Transit, there's a small portion that goes to operating, and then there's a really small sliver that goes towards senior disabled transit for kind of governmental agencies, for nonprofits. So we apply under that line, and it's been going on. I think we started around 2012, 2013 in getting that funding. Measure J has been reauthorized a few times by voters. We are under year one of a 2-year extension for the funding, so we'll have to then apply.
Okay, so we only have a 2-year horizon on that funding at any one time.
Correct.
It's reasonable. And the federal funding is gone now completely, or is it,
So
or is that whatever section of the?
They reauthorize 5310 every few years that we could apply for. They're very specific types of equipment. We were challenged on our last application because we are private. So technically we have to say we will, when we're downtown, we would pick up any qualified senior, and obviously it would just be within our scope. But so there is some challenge with those fundings, but the next authorization, I'm not sure when it'll come out.
But Jeff, would we be able to purchase an electric van or the smaller vehicle that we're talking about under the 5310?
Not anytime soon. Those grant cycles are years in the making. And even once you get approved, it's years because you got to go through the state grant process for where you get the vehicles from, and there's a lot of qualified stuff. So it's a long process.
So if we want to advance some transit options in 2026, then we need some funds in the capital budget in order to do that. And not only for the potential for a vehicle, but software.
Dispatch system.
Yeah.
So we'll bring that back in January as well.
Okay.
Well, we could, I mean, there are alternatives in terms of vehicles. I mean, you don't have to buy them, you can lease them, for example.
Oh, you want them on the coupon?
Well, there's a coupon anyway. All I'm trying to say is that there are options in terms of financing that are not as readily available to, you can't finance the payment.
Right.
So,
Oh, we'll see those options, but we might be expanding the capital budget here. Yeah. All right, Ted?
Just on that same thing, has there been any talk with some other company that's already doing business that would want to get into our area, like Waymo or one of those, to get in to take, especially taking the people from our place out someplace? Or is that?
We tried that.
Or is that an on-call thing? Somebody calls up and it shows up for you? It's not something that it would run you know what I mean?
I don't believe any of them are all positions.
Sorry, man.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So we want to talk about all of the existing transit options that serve or can serve the residents here. And what are we duplicating? There's a lot of components to it. So I think we'll bring back a pretty comprehensive discussion about that.
And isn't there something in Bishop Ranch that they've been operating for a long time that we look at?
It's the exact same thing that we.
Presto.
Presto.
Bishop Ranch is level, so the Presto worked there.
Actually, our.
Is it Presto? Is that what they're doing there?
It was the
I thought it was-
exact same thing as we were operating. It was
Yeah.
under the same funding source, same operator, same
Okay.
everything, the same
Right.
grant. It is fewer people that rode ours. I was told it was more than ride theirs.
Probably because it didn't go anywhere.
And
Around the
unfortunately,
corner.
I have looked into the Waymo and Zooks, et cetera, and they're just not interested in us. I mean, that whole marketplace is focused on, we need big cities, we need to get into those. They're, they don't even consider Contra Costa County interesting at this point.
If you ride Zooks in San Francisco right now, they take you to Tartine to get a pastry as their part of their free ride.
That's nice.
I want to do that.
We're going over next week.
All right, anything else?
We could take you to the new trailer to get
We may need that, there's limited parking. All right, anything else for the good of the committee and the community? As the last meeting of the year, we are adjourned.
Okay.